There we go. Hello, everybody. Aja Holiday here with MaidCentral. I am joined today by Troy Knight and Alvin Gehring. We are here today to talk about smart payments. We've done a couple of these live streams, but really just want to make sure everybody has all the information they need around smart payments and really understand why this can be really helpful, particularly in overall profitability of your business and understanding where those extra percents go here and there, particularly around payment processing. So we'll go ahead and I kind of want to start with a little bit of like the history of taking payments. So I've been working in operations in a cleaning service, or at least was working in operations in a cleaning service for about 7 years. And I can tell you that my favorite thing that we ever did was stop taking checks and stop taking cash. And yes, at the time that came with a slightly different cost. But checks and cash are, a lot of admin time. You've got, the risk of losing checks. I think we've all had to make that uncomfortable phone call of, hey, we haven't gotten your payment back. And the customer is like, what do you mean? Jessica brought the check and she had it on her. Why don't you have it? And suddenly you've got to do a little bit of a rigmarole, probably pay some lost check fees that add up quickly, things like that. And then it also really just doesn't work with a remote workforce. As more people have started switching to solo technicians that are not coming to the office every day, that risk of loss of checks becomes exponentially higher when they're only coming to the office maybe once a week. And suddenly you've got 7 days from the time that they received a check to the time that it actually makes it to the office. And then, if you're transitioning everybody to credit card payments, which is usually, I think, the goal for most of us, there's extra cost of that too. It can be a manual process. If you're, hopefully if you're already on MaidCentral, it's not too manual of a process, but ultimately you're paying usually around 2.9% and 30 cents per transaction. That is a direct 3% reduction in overall profitability. So our goal here with smart payments is to not only help reduce some of that cost, to offset some of that cost, make it easier to do this, make it very transparent to everybody involved, people within your office, people that are customers looking at invoices, and most importantly of all, profitability is probably the most important thing that we're talking about, but big piece of this is the compliance. As more people have gotten interested in this type of process of passing credit card fees directly on to their customer base, they're finding funky ways to do it that are not always compliant with federal regulations or even the more stringent rules are at the state level. And if you want to talk about hits to profitability, any sort of legalities around this would be a massive hit on profitability. So we want to keep you guys in a way, doing this in a way that is fully compliant, transparent, and ultimately helping your bottom line here on that profitability.
One thing, Aji, you mentioned too is going back to the days of checks, losing checks or checks getting found in the washing machine, after someone forgot to take it out of their pants pocket or something like that. But, then we've also got where a lot of companies now take so many different types of Venmo and, Zelle and all of these. And those come with a certain cost as well to the company, right? Because there's still additional transactions. And, I think the cool thing about if you can implement this credit card payment and then if you can implement the surcharge and pass those savings on, it really streamlines all of those different payment options there for you. So just a little bit about that. So while moving to credit cards, there is a fee associated with that, and many people are currently paying those fees. The surcharge does allow that fee to be added to that customer's invoice, so that when they pay that invoice, that surcharge, that additional fee is passed on to them. And that's pretty common nowadays. Several years ago, you almost never saw that, never heard of that. Now we see more and more of that happening in all industries. So you might could even say we're a little late to the game in doing that.
My
those
Poo
search.
Patrol people did it in May, so you know.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of times, you go pay this online. Well, if you pay by credit card, here's a fee. If you use your bank account information or ACH information for that bank to bank transfer, it's no fee gets applied there. So surcharging, like you said, it really can improve that profitability. When we talk about smart payments, so we're talking about more than just the surcharges or more than just that credit card fee. We're also talking about the ability to accept ACH payments, that bank to bank transfer, frictionless, and by doing that, the clients can avoid the surcharge if they pay through ACH. So instead of you as the company paying that 2.9%, if you start surcharging, that gets passed to the client if they choose to pay with that credit card. But they also have the option of paying ACH. And in paying ACH, then that surcharge does not apply because you talked about those regulations earlier. You cannot apply a surcharge to an ACH payment. So being able to do that is super important to
I have
stay.
a piece on that compliance too that I meant to mention earlier is that a lot of the workarounds that people have for surcharging does not separate out debit cards versus credit cards, and that is incredibly important. We cannot surcharge debit cards, and if you're not doing that in a way that separates that out, you're building up the possibility, increasing that risk of legal issues around this too.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too, like you said, with smart payments, because um, of MaidCentral and the process we have in place, you don't have to wonder, is this a debit card that's issued by Visa? Is this a credit card issued by Visa? We're going to know that. We're going to make sure that if the transaction can be applied with the surcharge, that we do that. And if it can't, we're going to make sure we don't apply that surcharge to keep you compliant. And all of this automatically happens, whenever you set up those uh, payment terms within MaidCentral and you select ACH payment or you select credit card or debit payments. It just happens in the background from there. We take care of all of that. So there's no additional steps. There's no manual processes that you're going to have to go through. And, so all of this sounds good, but then how do you actually do it? How do you implement it? That's always a question. So at the end, we've got some information just on how to do that, how to implement, how to handle the objections, the questions that might come out, a template that you can actually send to your clients to let them know what you're going to be doing as far as implementing those surcharges. So we've done this. We've seen a lot of other partners do this, and it really seems to be working well. And yeah, so no reason not to really.
Yeah, so we definitely automation. We get into why how easy it is and all that, but why does all of this matter? And we can't harp on this enough. And I'm going to go over compliance last again. You're going to hear Aja do it, Troy and me. We all talk about this compliance. You can't be doing debit cards. It can only be credit cards. We're also going to get into some of the issues with other workarounds as we get on later. The reason why we feel like this matters is many companies are losing 10% of their profit to these credit card fees. If you consider, you're a 10% margin business that goes into profit, and 3% of that 10% is going into, credit card fees, it can be upwards of 30%. We even see sometimes where if 10% of your revenue is profit, and then 3% of that 10%, that's 30% of your profit is just going right to paying these credit card fees. So what is the easy fix to that? It's going to be implementing smart payments where, again, as Troy stated, it's going to be automated. You're not really going to have to do any work. The processor is just going to know, is this a credit card? And it's going to apply that fee. It's fair as well. We're seeing it across many industries. Aja mentioned her dog cleaning service is doing it. When you go to restaurants, they're doing it. The big retail chains are doing it. If you go to Walmart, Target, and you pay with a credit card, you're getting hit with a fee there. my wife and I went out to dinner, this weekend. Sure enough, there's that credit card fee. We're really seeing it not just in service industries, but pretty much every industry everywhere now is kind of passing that fee down to their clients. It's just expected of the convenience of paying with a credit card these days. It's also going to be very transparent. We want it to be very clear. We want to help you communicate to customers that this is going to happen. We're not trying to sneak this in. We also want it to be very clear when they receive an invoice or they pay their bill that this isn't added on. And it's not, extra money for you. It's still paying the credit card fees. It's just kind of passing that fee on for the convenience of them paying a credit card. It's going to be super easy. You'll see later on in a few slides, we have tons of partners who have implemented this. It's been a really easy transition for all of them. We have some great reviews and great feedback from them as well. That just really not hard. We can get it done in a few weeks. We'll go over token transfer as well. It's also just very professional. Amongst it being transparent, that's part of professionality. We want it to be clear to our customers. But it's also just what big, large companies are doing. It's not, can't think of the word. It's not hidden in any way. It's really upfront, professional. And the phrasing we use, and when you see in the how-to guide, it's very much, we want to continue providing top-tier service. And in order to do so, we need to be able to pass these fees on. It's also going to be infinitely scalable with your company. However big you are, however small you are, however big you want to be, this is going to be able to be done. There's not thresholds that you need. And when you're 2, 3, 5 times bigger, this is going to be even more important. And you're going to see that in my next slide, that there's a lot of money, and it's not just change hidden in the couch cushion. There might be a safety deposit box hidden in your couch cushions, referring to your business, of credit card fees. I think 3% of your total revenue can be a massive amount. It's incredibly profitable. You're going to see as well some of the statistics of, how much is there, especially, for every $500,000 you're doing, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of extra profitability in there. And I'm going to wrap all the way back to the top, and compliance. Cannot stress enough how important compliance is going to be when we're doing this. And we're going to talk about doing it through rate modifiers and how we're unable to grab debit cards when we do that. It has to go through the processor to be compliant. There's even some states where you're not allowed to do the credit card surcharging. And you can get in a lot of trouble if you are doing it, kind of through back end means, and we don't want anybody to get in trouble.
And I just want to say something like, while we're in December, just a couple of connection points here. So our December core KPI is operating expenses. Take a look at that replay on our website for sure, because we do talk directly about this in that operating expense conversation as well. But also in December, I was just thinking about what I've done in December in operations. And every December for years and years and years, we did a year in advance sale, where if somebody purchased a year in advance, they got a little bit of a discount. But this was our way of getting a whole bunch of cash real quick at the end of the year, and also applying it to, that year's fiscal year, essentially. But think about that right now. While we're kind of in holiday season, where we know we're going to lose probably at least 3 days of revenue because of being closed, how much of a difference 3% profit would make by, at the end of the year, over the entire year, if 3% of your top profit, or 30% of your overall profit, 3% of your revenue, was still available at this time of year. I don't think we would, not necessarily that we would need to do our rushes for cash flow or things like that, but this could add a whole bunch of stability of knowing that extra 3% gives, wiggle room, marketing dollars, more investment into the business. Just thinking of what profit means. This isn't, lining our owners' pockets or anything necessarily. It's usually money that we can put back into the business as benefits, as, things that are aligning everybody together. So just making a couple of connections there. What does 3% mean? What does it actually mean in the grand scheme of things? That is security, stability, flexibility, and overall, buying back into your business.
I think a big thing, Aja, too, is it's 3% of total revenue in essence. It's not 3% increased profit. It actually adds up to sometimes 30% more profit.
Exactly.
When we're talking about these and a 10% profit margin. So what is the hidden cost of default payment setups? So we've kind of averaged everything out. We know there's a lot of interchange rates, and some companies pay different rates depending on where you are and how big you are. We've kind of evened it out to an even 3%. When we start talking about 2.9% plus 30 cents, it really averages out to 3% in credit card processing fees. And by eliminating these fees, again, a typical company, if you have a 10% profit margin, you're improving your profitability by upwards of 20%. Which is a huge, huge chunk that Aja was saying you can turn around and put back into your business and continue growth. And this is really what these numbers look like. And this is for every $500,000 you're doing in total revenue that's being processed by credit cards. There is upwards of $10 to $10,800 sitting on the table or in the couch cushions just waiting for you if you pass that 3% fee down, where some people are going to move over to ACH and you're still eating the 1%. But hey, if we could get a 1% rate instead of a 3%, we're all taking that. It's kind of a no-brainer, so to speak, where, the smart payments where we're moving some people over to ACH, and you'll see a lot of people really don't move over to ACH. They'll just eat the credit card fee. It's kind of an extra $2, $3 on top of what they're already paying there.
Would you say that it's safe to like if somebody's trying to calculate out what their savings could be, like a 2% of their revenue would be a safe projection?
Yeah. And you'll see in a later slide, on average, we're seeing it go from about 3% to about 0.91%. Some are seeing even more. We've had some partners report back that they're down to like the 0.6, 0.7 range. But yeah, we're definitely seeing, I think 2% is a safe. So take your total revenue, take 2% of that. That's what's sitting there in your couch cushions, so to speak, of your business that can then be turned around and put it back into, your technicians or whatever you may need in there. Like I just said, that extra cash flow can never hurt. So Troy, why don't you tell us a little bit about Castle Keeper's experience in implementing this?
Yeah, so before we rolled this out to everyone, we tried it in Castle Keepers, and we implemented the credit card fees, the surcharging. We wanted to learn about the process, what some of the loopholes, what some of the questions, what some of the pushback, what were the actual results. So we've been doing this in Castle Keepers for probably 6 or 7 months now. We implemented it in our Charleston location. We implemented it in our Greenville location. And surprisingly, as a result, may not be the case with everyone, but in our 2 locations, we didn't lose any clients, 0 churn customers because of implementing smart payments. Everyone's a little fearful. I'm going to lose clients. Customers are going to walk away. They don't like it. They're going to get mad. We didn't find that to be the case. What we did find is that, in somewhere around 93 to 91% of our transactions were credit cards based on Greenville and Charleston, those branches respectively. ACH came out to be about 7 to 9% of our transactions. So we did have some move from credit card to ACH payments, but it wasn't a huge amount. Over 90% of our transactions are still on credit cards. So after implementing smart payments, we found that, our cost was around 0.86 to 0.96 in Greenville. So kind of in that 9% range, almost up to 1% in Greenville we were seeing. So we didn't lose a lot of clients. We saw a lot of our customers kept that credit card payment. And that's because of how we went about implementing it. We gave them options. We didn't force anyone to actually accept that surcharge. We gave them the option of debit cards. We gave them the option of ACH payments. And when you give people options and they can make a decision, I think that gives them the power they need and not feel like something's being forced on us. And why we've seen in Castle Keepers and in others such a low churn rate when implementing smart payments.
Yeah. Now that we've had time to implement it past Castle Keepers, I kind of want to give you guys some numbers of what I've been seeing. I've met with a lot of companies. I've helped implement a lot. We are going to give you the resources needed to where you can book a call with me, and I would love to kind of go over one-on-one with anyone where we can do this. And now heading into December, we have over 30 companies using smart payments across MaidCentral now. So we've seen a huge adaptation to it over the last 3 months. We're actually only about 2.5 months in from really kind of opening smart payments to everyone. The average company reports going from around that 2.9% in fees all the way down to 0.9 on average. So Aja, you're right there with that 2%. If you really want to calculate what is there, just take your total revenue that is being done by credit cards, right? If you're accepting cash, check, those, you're not going to get back on those. But there's a lot there, 2% of your total revenue for there. Across all 30 companies, and I've been, keeping a close watch. I've checked in with everyone. I've only had 5 reported churned customers across all 30 of those companies. So only about 16% of companies report one churned client. And that's 5 companies have had one churned client. And I will say it's usually going to be people who are maybe on a fixed income, people who aren't understanding, people who are unwilling to go to ACH. But we can really use that kind of debit card option in our back pocket. Like Troy said, giving them options is always going to be the way to go. They don't have to take that credit card fee. They can pay by ACH. They can pay by debit card. And then through the compliance, we're not putting the fee on those because it's not compliant to do so. So we just want to give them options. And oftentimes when we talk about the churned partners, they were maybe going to churn anyway. It's not the credit card fee. Maybe that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, but they were maybe on their way out a little bit too.
Like I was thinking about trying to think of, how would I see the customers? I was like, I would hear from this lady and this guy, and I think that is it. And they are already the squeaky wheels.
Yeah. And really, the big thing I want to talk about and what I've heard is it's really quick. It's quick. It's easy to implement this. It takes minimal to no admin time. We can get, set up with the appropriate resources and team to where the biggest overtaking is going to be sending out an email, which we all know is going to be super easy in MaidCentral. We can just blast everyone all at the same time. We can do text if we want to. We already have all the call objection handling, all of that down for you. Frequently asked questions. You don't have to build any of these guides. Easy to train your staff, which we all love, right? If we're making more, we're going to be making more by doing less in essence. So, the big MaidCentral motto that we always love. So that's really other people's experiences. I would also kind of, if you're interested, there's a lot of good feedback we've gotten on Facebook as well. If you're in part of our Facebook groups, if you're not, be sure to join those. You can really connect with other partners and the MaidCentral team through there and ask questions there as well. All right, compliance. I really want to get into the compliance, and I'm really going to harp on this because it is really, really important that we want you guys to be compliant and we want you guys to be implementing this the right way. As an example, Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, if you're in one of those states and you're really excited about this, unfortunately, it's not legal in your state. Your local government has said you're not allowed to pass this down to your consumer. So as an example, if you are doing that through rate modifiers, which we definitely don't want you doing, you probably, you definitely need to contact me, Aja support team, and we can help get those off because we really don't want you getting in trouble. The big one here is cannot apply to surcharge to debit cards. Or if you are doing a bulk rate modifier in MaidCentral and you're applying it to everyone whose billing term is credit card, you are charging this to people who are paying with debit cards. There's no way for MaidCentral to know if it's a debit card or a credit card. The only way to get that done is through the processor itself. So, and then not only that, but there are going to be some states and also credit card companies who have caps on how much you can charge. Some states, it has to be exactly what you get paid by the credit card processor. Others are a little more lenient, as an example, but a lot of the states, like you can't charge a 5% credit card fee if you are paying 3%. That is not compliant.
Yeah, I think overall, from what I was looking at, just a little more detail on this is that federally it can't be more than what you're being charged for it. And then there are a couple of states, I think Colorado is one, and that's just because it's always the state that I most notice. But there's, it has a max of 2% type thing. So yeah. You don't have to go through the rigmarole of figuring all that out. We've got that figured out, and our pastry is helping with that.
And then a big one here is that these processing fees need to be visible on the invoice and displayed online. The rate modifiers, they are visible and displayed, but it's not going to be in the correct way. And I'm going to show you what it needs to be shown on an invoice. There needs to be a specific memo. It needs to be in a specific spot on the invoice as well. So you're going to see an example of that. Again, we're automating all this for you. You're not having to change QuickBooks or change your invoice style on QuickBooks. It's just going to happen. So again, that easy, fair, automated way of doing it. And then the only way, I can't stress this enough, the only way that you can be applying this surcharge and make sure 100% that you're complying with the rules and regulations of your state, federal, credit card rules is doing it directly through the payment processor. If you are doing it through rate modifiers in MaidCentral, we do not want you doing add-ons. And the biggest thing about add-ons is it's not only non-compliant and not best practice, but there are tons of opportunities for errors when we do rate increases. There are tons of opportunities for errors through QuickBooks if we accidentally tax that. So we're adding a charge and then we're taxing that charge. It's just can get really messy. Yes.
Added level of that in MaidCentral, we can only do it off of the base rate. So if you do a lot of fridge services, oven services, decluttering, just other add-on services, that surcharge is not being being calculated off of the total bill rate. With this process, no matter what, it's based off of the total bill rate. So not only is this like not following the rules and definitely most, in many cases not compliant, you're also leaving lots of money on the table by doing it this way too, because it's not applying to the entire bill rate.
Yeah, it's a really good example. Yeah, if your bill rate's 100 and you have a $50 add-on, that rate modifier is going to be $3 and not the appropriate, $4.50 as a good math example for you there. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see here, there's a memo that needs to be included and where the CC surcharge, where if you look at the top, there's the residential cleaning and the tips, which are line items. In order to stay compliant, there has to be this memo that a surcharge of X amount applies to payments made via credit card. Debit card payments are not subject to this fee. And then you'll notice that the surcharge fee gets added under the tax and under the subtotal as its own item on the bottom of the bill. This is all compliance. This is automatically going to happen. And all these little things can add up to where, yeah, I'm doing it through a rate modifier, but then your invoice isn't right. And maybe you're charging too much, or maybe you're not charging enough. And all of this kind of adds up to just don't do rate modifiers. We do not suggest you do rate modifiers. If you are doing it through rate modifier or bulk rate modification, please, we're going to throw up some contact information at the end. Please contact me. I would love to get everything fixed for you and make sure you're in compliance.
All right, so the biggest part of this process, especially if you are not already using Pastry, is going to be the token transfer. And that is it's a process. I've done it a couple of times. it's a process. So while there's not a lot of admin to actually get, the surcharging put in place, the token transfer usually has a fee associated with it. And essentially what this is getting all of your credit card tokens, or essentially the data behind the credit card, the number, expiration date, billing information, all of that in a encrypted format into a new processor. And usually that comes with a cost. So we are working to cover that token transfer cost for you guys. We've extended this through the end of the year, so expiring December 31st. So if you haven't made the switch to Pastry yet, and this is your reason to do it, and you want to be able to start doing smart payments as quickly as possible, we'll want to start with a token transfer, and we are going to help you not have to worry about any additional costs associated with this transition. So now's the time to do it. And we're trying to save you money everywhere, not just on the credit card processing, but in getting into that process to save more money throughout the year. So definitely, if this is the piece of your mind that you're like, I really want to, but one that seems like a hard process and man, it's going to cost me more money to actually do it, we're going to help with both sides of that.
A big thing I want to throw in here too for, anyone listening and watching this is there is a timeline we have to get it on. So if you're thinking and you're watching this and saying, I really want to start this on January 1st, do not wait. We need to have everything in and start going. Token transfers typically happen twice a month. from Authorize, from Stripe, from those payment processors. So don't wait. Sooner rather than later. We're going to give you plenty of resources as well to get a hold of us, and I can help you with this process.
And we're also starting, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're also start the surcharge process on a fixed schedule as well, to make sure that your bill, like what that surcharging is paying, is clean, so that it's all in the same process. So we have a scheduled timeline for when you can actually start surcharging. So the faster you start this part of the process, if you're not already on pastry, the earlier we're going to be able to get started. Otherwise, we might have to wait another month. So just to kind of put that in your mind as well, if you have a date in mind that you want to get started, really the date in mind is a month before that we want to make sure we're starting this part of the process.
Surcharging is always going to be started on the first of a month. So if you miss January 1st, your next window is February 1st. And we of course want you in on January 1st, because as I just said, at the end of the year, that 12 months is going to capture all that extra profit for you.
The faster you do it, the faster you're saving.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next steps offer, Aja, do you want to go over this, or Troy?
Yeah. So, we've kind of explained some of the why behind it. You can save those processing fees. You can, unlock, as you mentioned earlier, Alvin, 20% or more in additional profit through credit card transactions. We do have a smart payments guide that you can go and download. You just go to maidcentral.com/smart-payments-guide. You can download it there. You also can email Alvin or myself, Alvin at MaidCentral, Troy at MaidCentral. Would be more than happy to meet with you, explain it, answer your questions. So just reach out to us. Let us know you're interested. We'll be able to help walk you through those next steps, and also download that Smart Payments Guide as well. It's going to have the template that you can send the emails out. It's going to include questions, FAQs, really equip your staff to be able to answer those questions and get it implemented in a way that is easy and frictionless, really. So reach out to us. We'll be glad to help you, answer your questions, and get you started so that you can begin surcharging in the new year.
And then there's also going to be another resource available when you do go to this Smart Payments Guide. You're going to be able to book a meeting. This is a very short 15-minute meeting. It'll book directly with me. I'd love to talk to you about, how we can implement this. If you have more questions, please go book a meeting here at Smart Payments Guide. If you don't have MaidCentral and are interested, please book a demo, maidcentral.com, /demo. Troy or I would love to talk to you about getting on the product. And as he was talking about with the Smart Payments Guide, we're just going to lay everything out for you. Very simple, very easy when it comes to just making sure that, all of your call objection handling, the template, we've already got templates built out for you. What are some of those frequently asked questions? We want this to be an easy process for you. We want you to be able to have more profit and be able to turn that around and grow your businesses. And we're always here to help answer any questions you have. So please do not hesitate to book a meeting, email me or Troy, and we're here for you to answer any questions you have.
All right. I think that's everything that we have here. Our next live stream event is actually another one of our webinars, and that is our PCI webinar next Thursday, the 18th. So if you like to see our faces and hear us talk about things that can help your business, that's the next time to catch us. So and I think that is our last one that we have on the calendar right now before the end of the year. Do you guys have anything else that I'm missing?
Don't forget about Profit Bootcamp, Aja.
Absolutely. Yes. Profit Bootcamp. Signups are filling. I had a couple of meetings today that people have signed up or are planning on signing up for. So definitely grab your spot for that. The Profit Bootcamp is a 12-week class. One class a week starting on January 21st. I recommend this for anybody that wants to really get alignment in their team. So maybe you really understand the ins and outs of your profitability, but your office manager just doesn't see the connections yet or doesn't quite understand how their activities link into that that payment or that profit process. So if you've got salespeople, schedulers, even that you want to have better understanding of how everything works together and how they play a role in it, I think this is a really great class for team alignment in general around profitability. So that's where we're at. And you can find all of this on our website, maidcentral.com/events. And you can sign up, register, all of that good stuff there. So that's where we're at. Anything else from you good gentlemen?
I think that's it. It's a wrap.
Perfect. It's a wrap. Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for joining me or having me join you. Who knows what direction it is, but for us joining each other for this today. And I hope you guys got some really good insights on why this could be important. And maybe if you're on the fence, we can help you understand how this could benefit your company specifically. So reach out to us and we'll talk to you all later. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.